or join me on the Now Talk Show. The Now Talk Show is an intimate conversation with men to highlight the pivotal awakening from his past that has brought him from trials into triumph into the now. The Now Talk Show will be sponsored by the Alabaster Wellness Clinic. Please stay tuned. Good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to another episode on the Now Talk Show. The Now Talk Show is a safe platform for men to express themselves. The Now Talk Show is sponsored by the Alabaster Wellness Clinic, that's specializing in clinical counseling, trichology, and integrative medicine. Today, we have another distinguished guest. His name is Mr. Paul Junor. His bio is so saturated with wealth of knowledge and expression. So, without further ado, please help me welcome to the stage of the Now Talk Show, Mr. Paul Junor. Please come forward. Calling Mr. Paul Junor. While Mr. Junor is coming forward, I just want to take the opportunity to bring awareness to the month of November, that the month of November is a month that is um, designed or awarded to men to bring awareness to get your prostate check, and also in terms of mental health. And if you need someone to speak with, this is the month that there are more than great opportunities that have become available to men in order for you to reach out to someone. So the month of November, it is dedicated to men, and from the Now Talk Show, we encourage men to have their prostate check. And if it's a place of mental health, I encourage you to have connect with the various programs, associations, persons that is able to assist in terms of just having a talk if you need someone to talk to. And again, we are waiting for Mr. Paul Junor to come forward to share his story of his trials, how he has overcome in his triumph, and where he is in the now. Calling Mr. Paul Junor to the Now Talk Show. And I'll repeat again that the Now Talk Show is sponsored by the Alabaster Wellness Clinic, where we specialize in clinical counseling, integrative medicine, and trichology. The clinic offers so many diverse treatments, but the foundation to all these elements, we specialize in minerals, mineral analysis. And from the mineral tests, we're able to identify the mental aspect, the physical aspect, the overall interconnection of what makes a human body operate. It is not known, it's not a diagnostic tool. However, it is definitely means in terms of identifying all the variables that causes deficiency, that manifests as malnutrition, malabsorption, and of course, your biochemicals not functioning at a normal level. So I encourage you to go to the alabasterwellness.com. And again, it is the show, the Now Talk Show is sponsored by the Alabaster Wellness Clinic. So again, we're waiting for Mr. Paul Junor to come forward. Okay, so I just received a note. He's having a bit of a technical difficulties. So in going forward, I'm also an author, and I'm an author of 3 books. And there was one book that the interest was just so overwhelming, I had to do a second version. And this book is titled Sex. Let's talk about sex in a Christian bedroom. Now, again, sex is a biochemical need, just like breathing. And the highlight of the book is to get the conversation started. Simple. Because if we don't talk about it in a pleasant way, in the way that it was designed to be enjoyed, there are more adverse information that has gone out. And because of that, there's a lot of messages. And from that, there are persons who have found that they have not tapped into the source that allows you to truly enjoy sex, whether you're of a faith belief or not. Mr. Paul Junor,
Hi.
thank you for coming back in. I know you had a little bit of a technical difficulty.
I know yeah.
So again, I want to say on behalf of the team, thank you so very much for accepting our invitation on the Now Talk Show. And without further ado, let's get into the meat and potato of who is Mr. Paul Junor? How were you raised? And just build the story from there.
Yes, thank you very much. I was born in England, up in West Bromwich, which is up in West Midlands. That's next to Manchester, Liverpool. But I migrated to Jamaica, I think probably in the late 60s. So my sister and I, we grew up in Jamaica. So I, spent most of my early formative years and adolescence, teenage years in Jamaica.
Okay.
And then I started high school, Kingston College, KC, purple and white, the brave may fall but never yield,
Okay.
And then, so I was there in the early 70s, during the Michael Manley time. And then
Michael Manley, the former.
Yes. Who I've had the distinction of meeting in person twice.
Oh, please don't leave that out. You met up with one of the prime ministers. I'm sure there's a story there.
Well, yes. I was walking down Duke Street downtown in, Parade, and I saw him walking, going towards the Parliament building. And I guess I was too excited and I ran up to him and I shook his hand, Okay. So, it was a very, very pleasant surprise, So, anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Yes. So you were raised in Jamaica.
Yes.
And you went to school.
Yes.
So you left from England and went back to Jamaica. So you were raised with your parents and then your grandmother took over, or what was that like?
Yes. So I think so. My parents, well, my sister and I went to Jamaica because my parents, they divorced, and so we spent the time with my father's mother, my paternal grandmother, who kind of raised us during that time period. She was a wonderful lady, yeah.
Okay. So what was it like? You left England and went to Jamaica. Okay. From the cold to the tropics. What do you remember as a child?
I don't remember much in terms of the early years. My sister oftentimes talk about the experience as well. But I remember growing up, like, in Wild Cane in St. Anne's. Like St. Anne is, it's a very hilly parish. Like it's a very mountainous parish. So I remember living with her. I don't know, I probably was 8 or 9 or 10 years old within that time period, and just being with her in the, just the presence and the, just, the love. It was a lot of, just beautiful experience, just have like fond memories, Yeah.
So did you find growing up or being raised with, so you went to school in Jamaica.
Yes.
And coming from England, did you come with a different type of accent that kids being kids will have any?
So I probably, so if I, so I went to Jamaica in the late 60s. So, I was born in 1962. So I
Okay.
mean, I was fairly young. So so I don't really think I didn't really have much memories per se in terms of
Okay.
that aspect as well. But I mean, I mean, I think the thing that stand out was sort of not having my mom and not having a father. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and that just kind of for years. I mean, I didn't meet my mom physically until I first came to Canada. And that was like 1976.
Okay.
And I didn't see my dad. Who you know was involved early in a child, but I didn't see him until I was in my 20s. I think I had to go to England in the 80s to see him physically.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
not having both parents, mother and father, I think that kind of, I mean, affected me because I remember like birthdays and Christmas and those
Mm-hmm.
special times, not having a mom, not having a father, not having.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was really,
So
was really.
not having a mother or a father at the
Mhm.
time that you wanted them, as you said, birthday, the most intimate times. What
Right,
did you do? Was it your grandmother that was there? Was it an aunt
right.
who
I
was?
think yes. I think, yeah. I mean, grandmother as best as she can do. I mean, she was very caring and supportive and giving and loving. And it was a Christian,
Mhm,
a lady, Christian lady, a very godly lady. So I think
mhm,
she tried to. So I mean, like I wasn't aware, you know, that I was lacking something. It's not when I reflect on it now, I realize that, the
mhm.
memories come back.
Right, right.
Because I mean, the community was so supportive and so caring
Mhm,
that there was an extended family, through
right.
neighbors and through, church and through, the school and like, there was a real community of supportive community. So I
Mhm,
really had the benefit of that too.
mhm, mhm. So not having your parent, paternal parent around to celebrate key points in your life, how did you go about celebrating it with the community? What
You
was
know,
one of the things that really stood out to you?
well, I think too, you know, part of the thing too, I think I was a very curious kid.
Yes.
And I remember this is true. I remember like I used to live in Waltham Park, so that's like Kingston 11, like Seavert Garden, Kingston 11.
This
And I
is interesting.
remember like in the early 70s, like literally walking the entire Kingston, like from uptown to Parade to Crossroads to Halfway Tree to
Mhm.
you know like literally going up to stadium, going across, like literally, I mean, just walking up and down, just like walking was a way of, like, I guess, of really, you know coming to terms with the freedom. I mean,
Mhm.
actually that was in the early 70s. And I think when the Michael Manny time came and the violence got set in, and the gun court and so on, then it wasn't very safe to walk.
Mhm.
But I remember literally just walking the entire, you know corporate area of Kingston, literally,
We're
you name
talking
it.
hours, we're talking minutes. I know it didn't take you a
Hours,
whole day.
minutes, days. Yep. I remembered. I was. I was at Cass. I was at UWI. I was at the YMCA. I was up uptown, Knoxford Boulevard. I was up. Just it was
So,
interesting. You
so
know.
I can identify to
Yes.
the route that you took. What stood out?
You know what I think for me, there was a sense. I think partially to. I think not having parent, a physical biological parent too, and
Mhm.
and I think the fact that I mean, walking was a way, at least you avoid the transportation, because I probably didn't have money to pay for the JOS buses anyway. So yeah, so walking was just a way to really
It was like
search.
therapy. Like you
Yeah,
were, yeah.
yes,
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
I mean, and there's good and there's bad too, because you come across some shady
So
characters.
what age were you at this time?
This was like in the 70s. It's like
What so what
72.
age
Okay,
what
right. So
age?
about what, 10, 11,
Okay.
just before common entrance.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know. So
Okay.
it's during that early 70s, right? 70, 72, 73,
Yes.
74, you know.
So
Um
I remember my very, very early days when I was going to primary school in Kingston. And it was the family's tradition that all the Wong's children go to Franklintown Primary School, which is downtown Kingston, even though we lived uptown, I literally lived across the street from Devon's House Ice Cream. And I know that's an international monumental place.
Yes.
And it took a while, but you know what really extended the trip? Because every venue, every little spot we saw, we stopped to buy crab, we stopped to have sky juice, we stopped to have, jackfruit. Did you have that experience, just stopping and connecting with?
Well, like for me, I think not having the financial means to really buy a lot of stuff, what really was my source of support, was the fact that one of my high school classmates, Colin McNeish, who was the #1 table tennis player in Jamaica, right, at the time. And he was trained at the National Stadium there's a guy, Orville Haslam, who was #1 player in the Caribbean. He used to train the national team of Jamaica. So being a youngster and being, nothing to do, we'd go to the National Stadium and we'd watch the older players play. And I used to play a lot of table tennis myself too, because of, I didn't have the rackets and I didn't have the sneakers and stuff, but my friend Colin would loan me his racket and loan me, and I did so well that I was actually number 4 in Jamaica and under 14, actually. My name came out in the Gleaner.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's an incredible story. So I used to play in tournaments at Cass. I used to play at UWI. I used to play at Excelsior. I used to play all over, Kingston. I remember going to Bellevue to play table tennis. And interesting I used to go up to Up Park Camp. Up Park Camp, where the police and the soldiers are trained. So I used to play a lot of table tennis with these police officers. I mean, I'm a little kid, 11, 12, 13-year-old kid, and so I'd see all these officers, these police officers, and I get to know them personally. And a lot of them, some who were stationed at National Stadium, whenever I go there, like if they have an event at National Stadium, I'd get in for free. And I remember 1976, 1976 was Donald Quarry, I remembered they had the Caribbean Festival of Arts and Science in Jamaica in 1976. And I remember going to the stadium and going to almost all the events free because the police, and I was like a polite kid, I was a nice kid, like I was really, just,
You're favored. You had favor all along. Right. Yes, you had favored all along.
Right. So I remember that so strongly, just those police officers, I mean, one thing I used to observe as a little kid, I was always wondering why on a certain day all these women showed up for these police officers. But I realized later that was when they got paid,
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
They're my national at, Up Park Camp with these police officers, I mean, a little kid,
You were just born into favor in spite of who raised you. Because one of the key things that you actually you just illuminate when you spoke about these role models, the soldiers, and your countenance just changed right away when you start talking about. And I can identify because I remember as a child, it was the uniform and the routine of them walking and marching and stuff. So I can imagine just feeling very safe at that moment with them. So okay, go ahead.
And I remember part of the community that really helped was with my friend Colin McNeish, right? Because he, in fact, Casey, the high school Casey started as a school by Percival Gibson as a school for poor Black boys. If you look at the history of Casey, so and these were boys who were not necessarily wealthy or financially well off, but it was a real safe space where they actually economically, financially help you with clothes and books and khaki and all that, But I remember going to Colin McNeish house after school because he used to live up near National Stadium. I think it was at Rollington Town, Franklin,
in Kingston, the lower
in Kingston, right? Yeah. So we'd go to his house after school. So we'd all playing table tennis, right? So there were 6 or 7 boys after school. I remember there'd be like a cook up. I remember his sister was always cooking, and there's always food, and there was always these hungry boys were there. And it was just a communal, real communal atmosphere. There was a lot of love. There's a lot of support, a lot of,
Right. You
you
just
know,
absolutely felt safe. You were
exactly.
in a crowd of persons that you
Right.
actually felt safe about. So
Yes.
let me ask you this, because your bio says that you're a teacher. And when you're
Yes.
sharing the story, I'm hearing future athlete. What happened?
Well, here's a decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I finally reconnected with my mother after years of not having no contact, no communication, and then then it was in the 70s, and the 70s was very difficult. I was with my grandmother, and she really wasn't working, and the support was kind of um, you know fluctuating, and then my dad disappeared after seeing for a long time, right?
Right.
So it was difficult on her, and I remember at 2 particular points. One point, I had to go up to St. Andrew to live with my grandfather, my father's father, for a year, and then I remember moving again to Wild Cane in St. Hans to live with my uncle. That's my father's brother. So it was really, really very difficult for my grandmother, financially and so on. So,
Okay.
but eventually, I moved back to Kingston with her, and we had passed common entrance, and I, got accepted to Casey, during that time.
Kingston
So
College.
yeah,
All right.
so it was really very challenging, on many levels, for
On
her.
many levels.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you've passed, you've attended Kingston
Yes.
College,
Yes.
otherwise known as KC, the color
Hmm.
purple and white, and you have gone on to higher education,
Yes.
and you're in a place of science because you have
Right.
identified your personality in the beginning. You were curious, Paul.
Yes.
So you are
Yes.
all about science, and then something happened, and now you became, and now you become a math teacher. So share with us that pivotal point.
Okay. Part of the thing, when I was a student at University of Toronto, um, because of my passion for science and math, but particularly biology, I was interested more in biology, because I was thinking potentially of going into a career maybe in medicine or something to do with health sciences, right? So so I pursued a specialist in microbiology, medical microbiology, at University of Toronto, and then I grew up in Brampton, and back then Brampton wasn't as exciting a place as it is now. So the only way I could have convinced my mom to stay in Toronto was to take summer courses. So,
Okay.
because Toronto was, this was back in the like 80s. Toronto was the place. Safe city. You could, I was a church kid, but it was freedom.
Okay.
And so I'd take all these courses in the summer to not go back to Brampton, and then so I figured, well, I could, get a double specialist. I actually have a double specialist degree from University of Toronto in medical microbiology and human biology, which is
Right.
kind of, which is kind of interesting in itself. You can't get that anymore. You can't get like a double specialist. You get like a specialist and a major and so on.
Right.
So that really provided me with a lot of opportunities, a lot of professors, a lot of courses. And I figured, well, I'd pursue a career in the sciences or maybe go into medicine. And then, right away, I was working for like 3 different companies. I ended up working for MDS Lab, which is now Life Labs, the largest private medical lab company in Canada, And so I was just about to become a medical technologist, which means I had to write an exam and, and to go through, practicum experience. So I was just about to do that when I started doing some volunteer work in the community, with this AHEN, African Heritage Educators Network, and other groups in the community. And then working with kids, and just having a love for kids and just seeing my interest in, was sort of really spark. And I thought, gee, maybe I should, pursue teaching as an option.
Right.
So I thought, well, I'm kind of shy. I'm a nerd. I'm a bookish kid. Just give me a book, send me in a corner library, I'd read for hours. And then, so I really was very scared, literally. I remember that, standing in front of a crowd, reading recitation in Sunday schools and forgetting lines. So I was really like petrified about standing in front of a crowd. So I was really literally scared, like a real fear. I guess stage fright. But once I got accepted to Teachers College, at that particular time, this is like in the 91, you had to do like 4 practicums. You had to practice teaching 4 different schools. And so I remembered my first school. I mean, I did 2 schools in Toronto, one in Brampton, one in Mississauga. I remembered at Downsview Secondary was a school in Toronto. I think that's near Downsview and Shepherd. And I remember I walked into this classroom. It was like an older white teacher. He was just about to retire. And there was this young kid. This is like 28, 29 years ago, right? And I walked into this classroom literally scared, literally petrified. How am I going to teach these kids and so on? And I remembered literally, like, those kids, they embraced me so much. They loved me so much. Black, whites, Indians, like all these kids, they were just so. I remember one guy, Paul Joseph, I remembered him, to a black kid in the class. This is like 28, 29 years ago,
Right.
And those kids literally, this is almost miraculous. They love my fear away. I lost all fear of crowd, of people. I figured, so what if I made a mistake? So what if I mess up? These kids love me anyway. So there's nothing to lose, So I lost all fear of public speaking since then. Literally, it was a miraculous experience.
As you express your story, what I'm hearing a lot of, the environment that makes you feel the most safe is the environment you shine on, just like you're shining on this platform.
Right, yes.
Just like you're shining on this platform. And I have a question for you regarding, so you are now on the route to being a teacher, a math teacher, for your love of science and truly just being curious.
Right.
And you were younger and you were being exposed to tennis and talking about, all the various athletes like Donald Quarry and so on. As a person of in the now, how would you compare the athletic system then, like from Donald Quarry, to where we are now, perhaps the Usain Bolt?
Well, I think for me, what particularly struck me was I saw very few athletes who was able to balance the academic and the athletics, And I remembered, because to me, the balance was important, because I was obviously very academic. I was interested in studying and I liked books and so on, But I saw very few were able to do that well. So I thought I had to make a choice. Either I sort of, give up the athletic side and pursue the academic completely.
Okay.
And I remember that when I was at University of Toronto, I was talking to the coach, Andy Higgins, the coach who used to coach University of Toronto track team, and the coach actually for the Canadian Olympic team. And I was talking to him, and he says, he told me to come out and train with the team and to practice and so on, 400 meters and stuff. So then I was in the winter. It was the middle of winter, and I thought, gee, my gosh, there's no way I'm going to get up, early morning and go out in the cold and train. I said, forget it, So I gave up on that dream, and I wholeheartedly decided to pursue the academic pathway. I still played ping pong. I represented my high school in table tennis, and I still participate and so on. But I decided to go gung ho into the academic, the academic world, starting off initially as a math teacher, and then, gradually teaching a few science. And so, so right now, in terms of, I've pretty well taught all the math from grade 9 to grade 12, literally calculus, and, vectors, and taught all the sciences too, from grade 9, grade 10, the physics, the chemistry, and the biology. And I feel really special because, as a Black male teacher, to be in the Toronto District School Board, the largest board in Canada, and to the distinction of teaching all those subjects,
Oh, congratulations.
Yes. And
on
also
this platform, we salute you.
And also to add to, I got hired by the Toronto, it used to be the Etobicoke board before they amalgamated, before they all merged into one. So I got hired in October of 1992. So it's now 28 years that I've now, celebrated working for the Toronto District School Board, you know. And so, I mean, I could look over the windows and see like potential retirement if I decided to. Can you
If you
believe that?
decide to. You
I
know,
decided to.
I don't think Curious Paul will
Yeah.
retire. I can see you branching out and creating another entity and another entity, which lead me to the next question. Like, I
Yes.
know your passion, one of
Yeah.
your passion is writing.
Yes.
And I know you write for various community paper and so on. So tell
Right.
me, what inspired you to?
Okay. Okay. This is the truth, you know, like your program is all about transparency and openness and vulnerability,
Yes,
so on. Here's the thing, right? Community work is what inspired me to get into education, right? You know, I was with a group of, you know, volunteering with a group of teachers, you know, who were committed, who were, you know, full-time in the system, because I had no desire of becoming a high school teacher. Like I mean, I had a full-time job, you know, and I was, you know, a lot of flexibility and so on. So community work is what inspired me to get into teaching. And then once I got into teaching and teaching math and science, I find primarily a lot of the students of, you know, African Canadian background, a lot of students, you know, Caribbean background, were not necessarily excelling in the you know, the math and science, the health
right.
science field, you know. So you know, so that was challenging. So what I did, I got connected to several community organizations. There's one, the Black Health Alliance. There's you know, Black medical students. Like there was several community organizations that work primarily trying to increase. I know Francis Jeffers, Vision of Science.
Yes,
So
yes.
you know, I volunteer with a lot of those community organizations. You know, to really, you know, foster and to develop a passion and interest in science among the kids. And then on a personal level, though, I was feeling really, really dejected. Because I walked into the classroom, I didn't see the Black kids in the physics or the chemistry or the biology class. It was just maybe one,
Why
maybe
do you
two.
think that? Why do you think
What I
that
think
when
too,
it comes to the science, you don't see a lot of our kind being
right?
represented?
You know, I think racial stereotyping has to do with that. Though, you know, I guess it's all anti-Black racism as well. A lot of times, the Black students are not perceived to be potentially, you know, to have the ability to excel in these subjects. And you know, I think oftentimes the teacher, you know, may negatively influence them by you know, dissuading them from pursuing higher level subjects, by telling them it's too difficult, by telling them, you know, it's too hard, you know, and you know, and that's why I do a lot of tutoring too, because I tutor primarily a lot of kids, African Canadian kids, you know, as a way to navigate that kind of gulf, that gap between the potential and what's seen in practicality in the classroom. So I was really feeling very dejected, very despondent, because I'm a high energy person. I'm passionate, I'm enthusiastic. You know, I love learning, I love books, I love knowledge, and so on. But not seeing your own excel was very, very destabilizing. So I thought, gee, how am I gonna deal with this real despair? So I thought, let me use writing as a means to really sort of express myself, you know.
Okay.
You know, and then you know, so I started to write. You know, I started to, you know, write, and the more you write, literally, the better you get. So I thought, gee, let me use it as a positive forum to just sort of send it to people I know and, you know, friends and people. So I was just sending it, you know, like the birthday card, I just write something and I'd send it to different people, and then the response was, you know, was really very positive. And then I sent it to Simone Jennifer Smith, who's the editor of the Toronto Caribbean newspaper, some of my writings, and she says, why don't I write poetry for the paper? And so I said, right. So about in July, last July, I met with her, we sat down, she said, why don't you write for the paper? And she said, I said, what am I going to write? And she says, just write on anything. I thought, wow, that's even wilder than I ever thought. So basically, I've been writing on everything, right? I focus my articles on educational issues because of my background in teaching and my knowledge. But I write on, you know, like mental health, stress management, you know, strategies, you know, time management, you know, like just anti-Black racism, ministry initiative, you know, what just basically it's a forum for me to write anything. I thought, oh my gosh, like, you know, that's like absolutely crazy that I'm having this opportunity to be really expressive, you know. And I thought, well, you know, I mean, I was always loved words and books and so on anyway. So it was like a natural environment for me, you know.
Right.
So, you know, so I've just kind of been thriving in that kind of environment too, you know. Yeah.
So I'm sure you have countless amount of um, good report that came in. If you could, is there one that really stood out to you that your writing really has mentor or heal, or how it has transformed for somebody's life?
Well, what I do, I think it, on a personal level, I think it's transformed my life.
Which is true. Which is
Right?
true.
But what I
Yes.
do too, I think part of the thing too, when you're, when you think of that we are God's children, and I'm, as a king's kid, in terms of, as a believer, as a faith person, as somebody who believes in the power of the Spirit and the Holy Spirit, inspiration and so on. I think sometimes God speaks to you through the Spirit, which transcends your natural abilities, transcend your reasoning, your knowledge, and so on. So a lot of times the communication in the Spirit, because once there's spiritual communication, there's messages being transmitted. Like
Oh,
say
wait
if
a
you
minute. I am hearing a spiritual connection now that you should actually share one of those poems. Oh, wow. Please don't tell me you've gone because because we have asked you to share one of your poems. Oh, I think he's having some technical challenges. Again, if you have never Googled or if you've never tapped into um, the work of Paul Junor, you are in for a treat. He engages. Oh, you're back. I am just
yes,
I'm introducing the poem,
right.
the encouragement that you're about to share with us.
But you know what happened? I have everything all set up. So I have my Chromebook all set up, and then I have my phone all set up, two devices just in case, and there was
Yes.
it could be a third one. So I typed up all the poems I was going to read to you on the phone. So I'm trying to do the transition here because the computer here is just froze. So it's literally all I see is pictures of you, me, and Rob. So
Or
so
technical guy.
so yeah,
Yes,
so I'm
right.
not able to access it too. But I mean, but I could share just verbatim.
Oh,
I-
yes, by
yeah,
all
okay,
means.
right. So I think one that I wrote particularly for today was the power of an educator, right?
Please, let's hear it.
Right. So I mean, so this is like freestyle, right? So I
That's
was thinking
fine.
of so the power of an educator, it comes primarily by being an agent, an ambassador that was able to affect lives, you know.
Mm.
Secondly, the power of an educator comes from being a bearer of wisdom and knowledge and truth, who
Mm-hmm.
speaks life into the future.
Mm-hmm.
And the power of an educator comes from being a communicator who communicate not just through words, but through your actions, your attitudes, and values,
Mm-hmm.
And the power of an educator comes also through by being a dreamer, by
Mm-hmm.
dreaming big, by
Mm-hmm.
seeing potentials unrealized and realizing that those potentials can be achieved. The
Mm-hmm.
power of an educator comes from being an encourager, right? From being somebody who empowers others towards enlightenment, so
Mm-hmm.
that as they proceed through life, they can gain advancement. And the
Mm-hmm.
power of an educator comes from being a farmer, from sowing
Yes.
seeds into young lives, which reap a harvest of wisdom and knowledge and insights, and
Mm-hmm.
intuition and
Mm-hmm.
discernment. And the
Yes.
power of an educator comes from being a giver, from
Yes.
giving up your time, your energy, from being from sharing, from caring, from loving.
Mm-hmm.
And the power of an educator comes from being an inspirer, right? From
Mm-hmm.
inspiring others, by motivating others, by influencing others. So the greatness of an educator
Yes.
comes from being a kind-hearted person, you know,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know. I mean, I could go on, but that's just the short version of it, right?
Well, that version is so saturated. It's a meat
Yeah.
and potato in itself. There's so
Mm-hmm.
much to take from it. So
Mm-hmm.
let me ask you this. You are the example of the power of an educator.
Right.
Your adult self today, what would you
Mm-hmm.
tell your young self, knowing all that you have traveled,
Mm-hmm.
walked all the variable transition from professional sport to professional to educating yourself on
Mm-hmm.
on professional levels. What would you tell your younger self to encourage that little boy?
Right. I think I think okay, okay, let me tell you a true story. Like, this is a true story, right? Like, my
Okay.
life, I have so many stories, but it'll dramatize fully what exactly I went through.
Okay.
Not having the security of mother and father. I think there's a lot of fear in terms of not
Yeah.
having financial, emotional needs met.
Yes.
And so, the idea of poverty was a real issue. And in
Mhm.
fact, I was reflecting on my years in growing up in Jamaica, and then I realized that I was poor growing up in Jamaica, but I didn't know.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Didn't have money. I didn't have, stuff to buy clothes and stuff. But the community was so supportive and helpful.
Yes. Right.
And I remember this is a true story. And so, but I was conscious, not having a mother and father, I was conscious that, man, that there was a certain lack, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And I remember in the early 70s, this poor little black boy, which I saw myself as this poor little black boy,
Mm-hmm.
just walking around, maybe that's one of the reasons why I was walking so much, just trying to find myself. And then I
Okay.
remember I used to see a particular table tennis player in
Mm-hmm.
Jamaica in the late the in the 70s, early 70s, and her
Mm-hmm.
name was Anita Bell Navis. So I
Okay.
was this probably 10, 11, 12-year-old kid, and she was probably older, maybe 18, 19, and 20. And there was I, little kid. I said, man, I'd like to go up to her and talk to her and say hi. But no, I'm this poor little black boy, and she's whatever up there. And there, there's no way she's going to talk to me. This was in
Right.
Jamaica in the early 70s, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would never have gone up to her anyway, because Jamaica is very classist, very kind of society, and you know where you are, and all that class dynamics. But when circumstances changed, when I reconnected with my mother, where I found out was in Canada, when I came to Canada 1976, and then I came back 78, and I completed high school, got accepted to the University of Toronto, 1981, right? I'm walking around downtown University of Toronto, and I
Mm-hmm.
looked across and I see this face, and I go, wait a sec, that girl remind me of that girl that I used to see back in the early 70s in Jamaica.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I thought, no way, it couldn't be her. I thought, I'd love to find out if it's the same person. I mean, I didn't mention about the fact that you have a crush on her, and I don't want to talk about it. So it's true story. And so, but there, all this doubt, all this fear, all this negative stuff, all came back. I'm this poor little black boy. She's up there, and
Mm-hmm.
and then so for weeks, I would see her on campus, want to go talk to her, but scared because I was this nerd, this bookish kid. I was afraid of girls. So anyway, eventually, it's like somebody hit me over the head and says, Paul, all you have to do is just go up to her and ask if she's the same person. If it's yes, whatever. And then, so I got brave. I mean, one of the boldest thing I ever did in my life. I went up to her and I said, excuse me, I see you on campus downtown, you remind me of this particular person that I used to see in Jamaica. She was the number one player in table tennis in Jamaica, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I said to her, the name of the person is Anita Bell Navis. I said to her, are you Anita Bell Navis? And she said, yes.
Oh, wow.
It was the same person, right? And she said to me, oh, I'm now studying at University of Toronto. I'm doing my master's degree in physical education. I was doing my undergrad bachelor, right? It was the same person. And she talked to me freely, openly. She even made it possible for me to even want to play table tennis with her. And I thought, my God, there must be a God. Because never in my wildest dream would I have thought that she would even have talked to me, must have even acknowledged me or recognized me. But then circumstances had changed, geography had changed, economic has changed, but I still thought the same way. My mind didn't change. I still thought of myself as this poor little black boy who had all of these things. Yeah.
So now you would tell your younger self not to fear and not to have the
Exactly.
language,
Right.
that poor
And
little black boy.
not to become a prisoner of your past, or your prisoner of your your brokenness, your woundedness, your lost, whatever prevent you, your fears. Fears are a real thing. Your traumas,
Yes, yes, yes.
your your abandonment. I think probably I think I probably experienced a lot was the sense of abandonment, of not really feeling connected and really feeling apart, you know. So I think that was really something that I think, you know, I
You would
really
tell your
struck.
younger
Yeah,
self. Wow.
exactly. You know,
And this is the
and to take
platform.
risk, and to take risk, and to, you know, and to be move out of your comfort zone, you know. Yeah.
So as you
Yeah.
know, this is the platform for men. And
Yes.
the declaration is when a man speaks,
Right.
he has the power to shape the world.
Right.
What would you say to men and women who are listening to understand you more?
Okay. Well, you know, one other thing I wrote too, which is, you know, it's unfortunate the computer froze, but I can't retrieve it. But I kind of remember it from memory. And you know, I wrote several, and one of them was a takeoff from expression of a man.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So I'm doing freestyle, right? You know, so I wrote this down. So you know, so the first thing that comes to mind is that authenticity is an expression of what is true within the heart. That's one is able to speak with candor, openness, and transparency, right? The second one is beauty. Beauty comes from the spirit. It penetrates the soul, the heart, and the mind as it shines with radiance. You know, that expresses the glow, the glitter, and the glamour of true brilliance.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is creativity. Creativity is the power of the inner man, of the mind to conceive and conceptualize of images and ideals that reflects the inner depth of what one expressed through one visage, through one figure, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's, and then the other one was excitability. Excitability is the energy and passion that comes from pursuing purpose with energy.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you're able to empower it and energize, you know, to real gain harmony.
Mm-hmm.
The other one was the whole idea of fluidity, adaptability, being creative, being able to adjust, being able to mold, being able to be in different situations and to be able to maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole idea of honesty. Honesty is important because it shows the humility of the heart, which it reflects the depth of one's integrity. You know,
Right. Mm-hmm.
you know, and the whole idea of you know, integrity as as a strength of one character that helps one to do what is always right.
Mm-hmm.
Being strong in morals, strong in values, strong in ethics, gives one the power to walk in the light. You know, and I could continue, but that's just a reflection. These are ones that I actually wrote today. Actually,
Wow.
You know?
What was the inspiration?
I think if you know, being a child of God,
Yes.
believing in the power of the Holy Spirit and seeing it manifest in my life, there's no doubt in my mind that, you know, that God has gifted me with attributes, ability, and assets, and so on that I should share with the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do it every day with my students. You know, I mean, that's just, you know, professional calling through my vocation. But the gifts that I have, see, part of having a gift, you know, the gift is important, but until you share the gift, until you empower others through the gifts, that's when you're able to. Because I mean, I think the idea is that the servanthood leadership. The idea is that being a really good leader is being a servant, and part of the essence of being a servant is servitude, is giving, sharing. You know,
that's right.
You know, because you know, there's no point having all the gifts and just keeping it to yourself.
Yeah. And it is written, your gifts will make room for you.
Yes. You know.
Wow.
You know, so that's primarily what I do. And, you know, over the years, I've received certain awards. I've gotten certain recognition from the community, mentorship awards. I'm involved with the Leadership by Design program. You know,
do you have a website? I mean, I know it's important that you stated that you do tutor to get the community involved in interest in science and math and so on. So please share your website, your contact. So should someone be listening and they know of a student or perhaps their own child or they are themselves is in need of help please share your information. That way they can
Yes.
reach out to you.
Yes. So, and in fact, a lot of it is, a lot of the students I tutor and interested enough are males, boys, black boys, right? And sometimes I have up to like 10 male students a week, I mean, which is busy enough, And part of the thing I realized too is that being a male myself, being a teacher helps, being a role model, being a father. I mean, I have a son too, and so I wear several hats.
Right.
And a lot of the black boys is it's automatic authentication. Once they see me as a black male teacher, and know that I can relate to them, like right away, I know I've won them, and I really milk that. I really, own their skills. I really push them. I really be the best. I really thrive, and I was talking to one father actually. He called me last week. He's trying to connect me to tutor. He goes to Anglican church, and he's trying to. The minister's son needs some help in math. And so I was talking to him. So I said, "How is your son doing?" Because I tutored his son in physics, and his son went on to become a medical doctor. And so he says his son is now a child psychologist, and he works out east. I think it's Newfoundland, one of those islands up, So that was really just so powerfully. Like, I mean, I said, to be inspired, you have to be around inspirational people.
That's true.
Because people who think differently, who set the bar, who make you critique and analyze and really, become better at what would pull out excellence and greatness with you. Because I think a lot of people, we have all that stored within us, all that potential, and through a mentorship relationship, through a connection, real community, you can really pull out that potential. And I think a lot of people, I think in fact, I think fear-based behavior and shame is what prevents a lot of people from fulfilling the potential in life. But deeply, on all levels,
Well, I'll say it again.
Yeah.
On the Now Talk show.
Yes.
We honor you with the work you have done and the work you will continue to do.
Yeah, thank you.
You have the best guide, which is the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
And we have said it and declared it that your gifts will make room for you.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
Clearly, there are many more doors to open, many more minds to be transformed. And I am so excited to see the next read the next article that you will write. I'm so excited to receive another inspirational text that you share.
Yes.
And I'll ask you again, is there a website, a number that persons can reach out to you?
But you know what I did? Just to, every so often, and lo and behold, I counted at that time, which was a couple of weeks ago, over 80 articles online.
Wow.
That are actually, you could just, actually over 80 articles that were actually on just a Google search that I actually wrote about all different topics, But I've been focusing a lot on anti-Black racism in terms of the impact that has on students within the school system. I read a lot about the Peel Board. I read about the Durham Board. I read about the York Region Board. I wrote about, the story of the young boy whose yearbook was defaced in terms of,
in Durham.
So I read a lot of the contemporary stories that celebrate the excellence in our community. The first Black director of the Toronto Peel Board, of the Peel Board of Education, first Black female director, interim director of Toronto Board, the first Black female director in the Ottawa Board of Education. So I celebrate Black men and Black women, the excellence in our community. So I use the writing for the paper as a means to really freely just talk about how successful we've become and how, our greatness and our excellence, and to me, it's like, a kid in the candy store, like I've just given opportunities just to write. And I said, well, it's just freedom. The creative freedom is just so fulfilling, on many levels,
Well, you're doing an excellent job.
Yes.
As I said before, from the Now Talk show, we salute you. We honor you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much for accepting our invitation.
No, it's been an honor. I'm so excited. I feel like I could,
Well,
It's a great opportunity.
We'll ask you to come back because I
Yes,
know all that you have written needs to be heard.
yes,
So we're definitely, this is an open invitation for you to come
certainly,
back.
yes, yes.
And I always say, listen, a short pen is better than a long-term memory. So
Yes.
old school, write it down as much as you would type
Yeah.
it, write it
And I think,
down.
right. And I think, and that was one of my impetus for the paper too as well, because I thought, well, if they're gonna give me the opportunity to write for the paper, and they tell me to write on basically anything, then also it's an opportunity from a male perspective.
Yes, yes.
From a male voice, from a male, from a, just a male understanding of issues and the complexities and the challenges and the, and being free, because a lot of time women, we don't really express ourselves,
Or
and,
given the opportunity.
right, and so I thought, well, I mean, the poetic expression is, good. It's a natural vehicle for me as well, but really writing for the paper, I think it was just, I mean, the organizational and the aspect comes from my background in math and science. That's natural, right?
Yes.
So just using it just to really, to show and highlight the important issues for a community, and I thought that was what Marcus Garvey was doing. That was what Malcolm X was doing. That was what Martin Luther King and so on. That they were using the different media, different outlets to really speak for the betterment and the advancement and the upliftment for our people. And primarily, my role is to empower people, and fundamentally is to empower Black men, actually.
And you are reaching the community, particularly the Black men, and you're doing a great job.
Yes, thank you very much.
I would like to thank our audience for tapping in to listen to Mr. Paul Junor expression of a man.
Thank you.
Again, we thank you for your time. You've heard me say it before. Your time is the most important thing that you can offer to anyone. And tonight, I thank you for offering us your time.
Yes,
so
thank
you. On behalf of the team of the Now Talk Show, I would like to say have a good evening, or depending on when you watch it again, good morning and have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us on the Now Talk Show.
Right. Thank you very much for giving me this venue, this forum, this medium, this platform. And I appreciate it a lot. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
Okay, then.